All righty, traders, let's take a look at our market recap for August 4th, Friday, here in 2023. Pretty wild day in the market, as it looked like we were having a pretty good up day, and then the bottom fell out halfway through the day. So let's take a look at overall SPY, and then we'll take a look inside of the day. SPY ended down $2.03, 0.45% drop in SPY. So we really ended the week on a pretty good little down note here, almost to the PSR reversal and this little support area on the weekly. We look over here on the daily, and we can zoom in a bit. You can see on the day here that we were up nicely above the 21 EMA, and we broke all the way up to about 450, 453 almost on SPY, before just falling back on it and hit some new lows. So we don't have necessarily a lower low and a new high in here yet. Right now, it's just a sell-off in the markets after moving up to these highs back here on SPY. So we did fail to hold this area where we bounced up yesterday, failed it again. Today we looked above, failed it. So we'll probably wipe this piece out. This looks like an area, maybe it becomes an area of resistance. We'll see what happens. Our next area to watch here is going to be this 444 level. So 444 is where we're looking to head to. Beyond that, you're down here towards the 440 level. You've got some really thin structure in here where we had gap up in the middle and another gap up. So you could easily rip through those and head down into this area here. So we'll see if this holds, if we can build a little bit of a base or something in here, which I thought we would do today based on the way it was looking, but no. So MACD continues to sell off. RSI continues to drop on daily and weekly. And that is where we are on SPY. If we want to take a quick look intraday at the way things looked, here's the 15-minute in the middle here. Let me close this, make it a little bit easier to see, and we'll take a look at where we were on some of the major stocks that were contributing to things. But on the 15-minute here, opened the day decently on SPX, rallied up, dropped off, sold off, and then we just started climbing all the way up to 45.40 on SPY. So it was moving pretty well on the day. And then right here at about 12:45, that's when it started to sell off, and you just sold off hard all afternoon in big chunks every 15-minute, big chunks of 5-10 point chunks all the way to the end of the day. When we came close to the end of the day, it started to try to hang in there a little bit. So there's where we ended up. Advanced decliners, same thing. And then the UVXY, that's when it really started to take off, was right around 1 o'clock or so. UVXY started cranking up. Advanced decliners went from a 250 positive all the way to a 200 negative on the day. So pretty good swing intraday, pretty good down day. When we look at Apple today, so Apple, took off down, moved sideways pretty good. It pretty much held itself here for the most part, down about 5 points, and then right about that same time, it just sold off hard into the rest of the day. So Apple dropping a little over 9 points on the day itself. So a pretty good, almost 5-point drop in Apple. Yet Amazon actually rose up through the session, and then when we hit that time frame, it just started leaking, and still ended up 10 points up for the day. So Amazon still had a good day, up 8% on the day, up a little bit in after hours here. Tesla looked like Amazon a bit. It rose up for the day and then just went negative, and Tesla ended up down about 2%. And if we look at Microsoft, it had dropped pretty good early on. By 10 o'clock, it was down pretty decently. It rallied all the way up to that 1 o'clock mark and then just sold off the rest of the day. So that's really what the market looked like today. Really a story of, up, down, up, and then way down as we sold off. So that's what we looked at on the markets today. Let's take a look at the Qs. Qs are down pretty much the same as SPYs, same basic premise here today. We tried to move above, failed at the 221 EMA, and closed right down close to this little support level here around 372. Got a little bit of ways to go underneath that. Same setup as SPY. IWM just bouncing around inside this little channel that we have here. It's easy to see on the daily. Broke up above this 192 back here early in July. Meandered its way higher. Hit this area here as about 198, almost 199, and then is sold off. But it has held the 21 EMA just fine. So today it was down a fraction, but it was down half of the percentage of SPY and the Qs. And it's holding its 21 EMA. So small caps and the IWM are holding up pretty well in here. All right, let's jump up to VIX as well. VIX had another pretty good up day. So VIX has run from about 13 up to 17, up another 7% today. This increase in VIX volatility is definitely impacting the positions that we have on and any other premium sellers. Now, it's great when you're selling, but when you're holding something you've already sold at a lower volatility and the volatility is rising, even though the market's dropping on strangles that may have been pushing the call side, that volatility is overdoing any benefit of the sell-off. If you're naked puts or you've sold puts, now you're getting a double whammy, because not only is the market going at you and going against you, dropping, but volatility is rising. So the market dropping is increasing the cost of the option or the asset, and then volatility is also increasing the value of that asset. So you had a double whammy. So you're really getting hit twice on the downside to anything that you're naked on right here. So volatility is starting to really come into play. The dollar dropped a bit today, so it finally cooled off a tad, starting to tip over here on the daily. So this downtrend channel is pretty much still intact for the most part. Dollar dropped on the day, turning over MACD and RSI. What didn't turn over was bonds. And you can see the TLT here had a very big up day, filled the gap from yesterday. Bonds oversold on the RSI. I really thought about getting long bonds today. I did not do it either in TLT or TMF, but I think there's a good opportunity here. It was a better opportunity yesterday, but I don't like to catch it till we start to turn. MACD maybe making a turn, RSI moving higher. The weekly, though, still has MACD falling and RSI falling. So we may still have a little bit more to come. I talked yesterday that we might be seeing somewhat of a double bottom coming in TLT, but I think pretty soon, if we're not already in the throes of it, getting long bonds is going to be a good opportunity. But we had great days in our futures on both the Aussie dollar, the British pound, and the euro, all moved up with the dollar dropping today. Oil, we talked about the inventory levels yesterday on oil. That's continued to move up, even though yesterday we had some selling before we changed direction. But oil heading back up. It was up as high as 83, dropped and finished at 82.64, so just off of its highs. MACD still not, giving up the ghost here. RSI still of course, this overbought area. We did scalp some CL today for a good amount in there early on in the day when it looked like we were down towards our lows and we started to move higher. We were able to get into CL and scalp some futures on that. Gold did tail off a bit today with the market. I'm sorry, gained a little bit today, tailed off this week, gained a little bit today as it really tried to hold on to the 21 and the 50 EMAs. However, you did get a PSR reversal on gold today, MACD dropping. So we'll see where we go. It's really a good spot to be in, I think, to run some strangles. Volatility is definitely contracting. Look at these Bollinger Bands getting tighter, which means volatility is contracting on gold. It's going to get ready to make a move one direction or another. If the markets keep selling off, I think we're going to see gold start to move higher significantly. If the markets just kind of hold in here, gold's just going to continue to squeeze a bit in here. If you've got strangles like we do on gold, this is good for our strangles. So watching that volatility squeeze gold. On live cattle, we had a pretty good update today. We were actually able to get out of our live cattle strangle for a 50%, a little over a 50% winner today. So we closed that winner. Nat gas, which we're in, just pretty much moved sideways. Didn't do a whole lot of anything on the day. Moved up a bit, but overall here didn't do a whole lot of anything on holding the 50, trying to get to the 21, just getting tight in this area. Maybe nat gas getting ready to move. Looks like it could make a move to the upside. We'll keep an eye on that, but we've got strangles in that. We also did close a oil strangle today, so something else we'll take a look at later. If we jump into our sectors here, and we'll go into these quickly, the XLK on the text broke out of this little range, so now you've got a pretty good little downtrend in tech going. It's broken the uptrend, so that trend is now over with. This little downtrend channel pretty much been toasted. It's opening up a bit more here to the downside. We'll see if this 50 EMA holds, but strong strong MACD selling, strong RSI selling, tech looking pretty ugly here, except for Amazon, which moved up pretty high, which gets your XLY moving higher. Now, Amazon, Tesla are fighting because Tesla was down a bit on the day, down 2%, but Amazon was up 8%. So overall, XLY ended the day up nicely, but well off of its highs. Still working on this little channel here, but it is off. It is above the 21 and the 50. So that looks good. On the communications sector, which is your Google and your Meta, still holding above the 21. So really nothing bad here either. XLE had an update. It finished well off of its highs, but we had a nice up week in XLE. We're fighting with this resistance area. We looked above today, didn't make it, sold off towards the end of the day. MACD getting a little soft here and RSI dropping a tad, but that's the daily. The weekly looking pretty solid. So little pullback, a little bit of a move higher on XLE, and then the XLF after a decent day yesterday did poke its way higher again today, like a lot of things did, and then sold off to the close. It's above the 21, above this support area here. I think that's fine. XLP broke the 21 and the 50. We're right at the 50, so I'm not throwing in a towel on it yet, but XLP looks a little worse than the rest. XLV on the healthcares here, that's breaking the 21 and the 50 is where it's trying to hold. We'll keep an eye on how healthcare is doing. Utilities just continuing to crater here. So utilities just getting absolutely destroyed, having a terrible 2 weeks where we've dropped from about 69 to 63. So a 10% drop in the utility sector. Real estate also having a pretty ugly 2 weeks in here, dropping pretty heavily again last couple of days. We're starting to approach oversold on the daily on real estate. So watching the RE sector drop, and on the industrials, again, just like utilities and real estate, dropping pretty good, not oversold, just meandering around in there. The XOP, which is your oil, we've already talked about oil moving up. And then Amazon today had a fantastic earnings report, came out firing, closed off the highs of the day, but a huge gap up and a big 8% mover on the day today. Amazon breaking through a couple key areas. So Amazon doing exactly what it should do when it reports well. And maybe it's keeping this market from doing a whole lot of bad things right now. Apple, on the other hand, doing a whole lot of bad things. Not great earnings. Not great outlooks on some of the phones and other items. Services, yeah, but the actual phones, iPads, things like that was all down. It broke through this little support area here. It broke through the 50 as well, and it's all the way down to this previous support area here, about 181, and it dropped like a rock today. So some pretty strong down days for Apple. It may not be done. However, it's passing the 3 ATR. We'll see, but it's outside the Bollinger Bands. That may slow it down a bit, but we could see some more selling on Apple. Next stop would be this 175.77 mark in here for us. On Apple, Microsoft had an update today overall, but barely did anything today. Finished well off its highs. However, MACD starting to flip over a little bit here on the daily. We'll see what happens next week. Bollinger Bands, though, are opening up to the downside. Pretty good sell-off the last 3 weeks on Microsoft. Is it close to being done? Maybe. We'll see what happens. RSI is continuing to head lower as it goes lower, so don't see any kind of divergence in RSI. So that's where we are. We won't really cover Meta, Google, NVIDIA. I don't know. There's a whole lot to look at there. Tesla still dropping on the day here. Even had had a drop of 5.46 points, down 2%. So it dropped on the day, but still maintained the above the 50. And you don't have a lot of lower lows in Tesla in here. So we'll keep an eye on Tesla, and we'll see if it continues to just kind of find its footing here. Doesn't seem to be accelerating to the downside. And NVIDIA still hanging in there pretty well overall. Maybe you'll use this previous uptrend as a resistance area, but really more concerned about this area here. RSI dropping, but trying to flatten. MACD dropping, but overall it's holding up decently well up here, and it's due for a pullback anyway. So if it pullbacks to the 50 or this bottom Bollinger Band, which are getting tighter, we'll see what happens on this. All right, let's take a look at what we did in the trading account today. We had a good day despite the market. We made some cash. So on the day, we ended the day with a delta of 587, which is 0.21. Now that delta is outside of my 0.2 range. So if we don't get probably a positive day on Monday, we'll have to look to do something to potentially drop our deltas back in, either remove some positive delta trades or add some negative delta, which we'll definitely do on Monday anyway when we add our weekly hedge. So I think that'll help a bit as well. Theta up at 795.29, doing well on Theta. Netlick dropped just a fraction today. We were up at one point. We were up $5,000 on the day. We ended the day down a couple $100 on the day, but big reversal from being up $5,000 all the way to really about 284, 283, and then ended at 278. BP usage dropped a bit as we closed some trades today. Ended up at 51, perfectly fine where we are. But we did make $1,860 on the day, putting us up $972 for the month after the first week of trading. First 4 days of the month, we're up $900. Took a good loss yesterday, recovered all of that today. And let's take a look at what happened today. So 3 trades closed today. The first one was a BA, or our big ass 112 trade. We had already closed the naked puts, so we were just letting the put debit spread expire. It expired worthless today. Not a big deal there. Now, on live cattle, we had a strangle that we had put on back on 7/21. That expired today. 51.7% premium capture, a 22.5% return on capital. We made $750 on that strangle. And then we also closed an oil strangle today that we had opened just 21 days ago on 7/14. We closed it at 43.50. Normally 50 points is where we close. I closed it a tad early because it was a little bit bigger size than I probably wanted to have on. So I just wanted to adjust my trades a bit. So I closed it 43% winner. It was close enough. In 21 days, we'd already made 43%. There's no reason to wait a whole lot longer to make, 6% more on the trade. Might as well get something else working. So almost a 15% return on that. So fantastic day from a P&L standpoint. Today recovered the loss on the bond strangle from yesterday, and just kind of a flat day from a net lick standpoint. So we'll see where we go next week. Nothing super concerning, but nothing positive as well. Not great to end the day on a down note and sell off when you had a decent run coming today. We'll see how things react next week. We got CPI, I believe, coming out next week as well. So we're going to keep an eye on what's going on in the market. All right, everybody have a fantastic weekend and a great rest of your day. And we'll see you back in trading the markets next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.